General Motors electronic spark control. What is it? What's it do? Do I need it? Do I have it? And how do I get rid of it? Today on Mecha Nuts. Alright, one of the easiest ways to identify whether or not your vehicle has electronic spark control is by looking on the passenger side. And if you look down here in between those two spark plugs, there is a wire going to a knock sensor that's screwed into the block. And that wire runs back here to a group of 4 wires and a plug that goes to the distributor. And off on the actual distributor, now if you'll look back here on this distributor, you'll see those 4 extra wires that are coming off. And those extra wires have a clip that you can undo, and if you jump the green and the black wire together like I have, the distributor now thinks it's just a standard vacuum advanced distributor, and a lot of the problems, well, all of the problems I have go away. Now this looks like a standard HEI distributor like you would see on a vehicle that was not using electronic spark control. But one of the first things that led me to believe it did have it was when I was looking at the actual connections where the power hooks into it. Instead of just having one thick pink wire going to it, it had a jumper from the factory where there was a thin orange wire running to power as well. It kind of stair-stepped down from the big pink wire to a thin orange wire, and without that orange wire the vehicle wouldn't run. So that's when I realized, oh, there's something else going on here. Now, I was diagnosing everything on this vehicle. I checked the timing checked perfectly. As far as just, you know, it was at 36 degrees fully revved out. It was at 12 at idle, right where it really should be. I mean, it might be off a little bit, but not enough to make it completely bog like it was. And I went through the fueling system, went totally bench tested everything as far as resistance on the distributor. Everything looked perfect. I was balked 20 days. 20 days. I've been wrapping my mind around this, and I ended up being able to jump 2 wires together and have everything be fine. So it's a very confusing system in that it's an antiquated 80s system. They started using it after the CAFE regulations were put in place in the late 70s to try and make it burn leaner so it could pass emissions. All it did was retard and advance timing based off of the knock sensor readings. The ESC system uses a computer that's mounted under the glove box, or back behind the glove box rather, to control all of this, and when that starts malfunctioning, it throws your timing off like big time, to a point where I was sitting here, I would blip the throttle and the engine would die and backfire and I'd have a fire, even though the distributor tested fine. It was only when you would put it under load or rapid acceleration. And at first I thought, well, I say that load, and that's really not true. I thought it was only when it was under load, and then I blipped the throttle one day just sitting here diagnosing stuff, and I ended up with a carburetor backfire and a literal fire on top of the carburetor. And that's when I realized it wasn't just under load. It had something to do with how quickly the motor accelerated, and that's when I was like, okay, this has got to be timing. The ESC system was used from about 1980 to about 1985 or 86, depending on the vehicle. On Corvettes it was used earlier, but the distributor didn't have a vacuum advance, and there was no way to really bypass that setup. On this one, it's only controlling timing, and so you can get away with bypassing it, and the distributor just acts normal again. Alright guys, you're going to have to forgive the archaic drawing. I don't know how to do all this digitally for you. So what we've got here is a representation of the distributor, the power plug for the distributor, and the 4-wire plug that are coming off of the distributor that hook into the electronic spark control unit. Now what's important here is that where it plugs into your battery terminal, where it plugs into the actual distributor to give it hot power, normally you would just have one little plug going into the battery side. If you have ESC, you'll have this jumper looking thing that has the thick pink wire like you'd normally have, and then a thinner orange wire that drops down off of it a little bit. It looks kind of like this. I kind of tried to draw it out for you. So as opposed, I kind of tried to draw it out here for you. So instead of having one thing plugging in here, it ends up being two, but this orange wire ends up hanging down off the side a little bit. It makes it kind of a funky little setup. So you'll delete the orange wire and it will pull directly out of this little clip thing and leave you with the ability to just hook the thick pink wire back up to your distributor. So it works out real easy. And over here on the other side of the distributor, you know, if you're looking at a small block Chevy, all this is going to be on the right hand side. You've got the 3 wires that come off of the distributor that actually plug into it. That's all normal. But over here on the left hand side, near the actually back behind the vacuum advance canister and everything, I didn't draw that on there. That would be about right there. You'll have 4 more wires coming off of it with a clip that, you know, it basically plugs 2 of them in together, and that's represented here. Now what you do is you unplug that clip, leave it hooked to the distributor, take the green and the black wire and just hook them together. Clip them off, hook them together, leave everything else like it is, and you're done. You don't need the thin orange wire anymore, so you delete that. You hook the green and the black together. That's it. You don't have to disconnect anything else. You can if you want to at that point, because you'll never use it again. Another reason you'd want to do this is if you've put an aftermarket carburetor on and you're having issues with it because you're still using this antiquated distributor. Alright guys, I hope this answers any questions you had. If not, just hit me up in the comments. I really wanted to do this video because the ESC thing really confused me for 20 days in a row. I went through everything trying to figure out what was going on with this truck for it to end up being 2 wires I had to cross together to bypass some crazy system that they were trying to use. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we'll get back to the actual project now that we have the truck running. Have a good day.